People think that to rank higher, they often need to build more content, build more links, all these things. But a lot of the time, it's more about making the content you have better, faster, better written. So in this video, let's talk about on-page SEO tactics that you can do to remove duplicate content or bad or thin content. And many people think that duplicate content is basically, if you copy and paste, right? Like that's duplicate content. Of course, that's duplicate content, but duplicate content is actually much, much more than just copying and pasting. And many people don't actually realize the extent of duplicate content. And even though they might think, oh, for sure, I'm not creating duplicate content. In fact, they are. So for a new website, it's about managing how you create content so that you don't actually create duplicate content. And in a second, I'll talk about what kind of content duplication is possible and what to avoid. For older sites or existing sites, duplicate content can happen when you transfer your protocol from HTTP to HTTPS, when you have a redesign of your website or an entire new website that you kind of switch to, or a redesign causes navigational problems, or if you've accumulated a ton of old blog posts or a ton of old product pages. And by the way, new sites can also have thousands of product pages that are kind of bad pages, very similar to one another, no traffic to most of them, not really great. Or it can simply be that for older sites, there can be a lot of outdated products no longer sold, but the page is still up, or blog posts that are no longer relevant. Nobody's going there. Nobody's browsing those posts. They're not really helping you. So a solution can be to set your bad pages or thin content pages, meaning there's very little actual content on them, or pages that you think are kind of duplicate, to not be indexed. It's that simple. And I'll show you in a second how to do that. There's a number of ways to fix that. And keep in mind, if your URL is www.site.com and site.com, obviously it's the same website, but Google will treat that as two different URLs. And if they treat it as two different URLs, guess what? It's actually duplicate content because you got two of these. And I want to give you more examples of duplicates to see how extensive this can be. So let's say you have a normal website, https www.site.com. Now, if the same version of that URL without the S, the HTTP without the S, that's considered duplicate content because it's the same content with a different URL. Now, https : skipping the www. Just having site.com, that's another duplication. Or having site.com and / at the end. That's another duplication. It's a different URL. And you would think Google is smart enough to realize this is the same thing. And I'm sure to some degree they are smart enough. But they leave it up to us to direct them to what we should do with their site. So keep in mind, www.site.com is not the same as site.com. So how do we fix this? There actually are a number of ways, 4 ways to fix or prevent this. I'm going to go over how to do this so that when you create your pages, you'll know exactly how to tell Google what to index and what not to index and what not to crawl at all. The first one is very simple. If you have a page that you do not want Google to index at all, maybe it's some kind of a technical page, maybe it's just some kind of thin content page, but you decided, okay, this is a bad page. In the header of that page, you place this text exactly. This is just one line. It only appears as 2 lines here, but really it's one tag. You see it's opened by that little sign here, and it's closed by this sign, and you can just copy and paste that or rewrite it. It's exactly that. And Google will no longer index that page. Another thing you can do is have a robots.txt file in the root of your directory. The robots.txt file is not something your website visitors will see. It's only for Google or other search engines or other crawlers. And you basically tell the crawlers what not to crawl and what to crawl. If you don't have this file, that's okay, but it's going to crawl everything. So if there's some part of your website, maybe it's outdated, or maybe you don't want it to crawl, or for whatever reason, then you just say, don't crawl that part of your website. Let me show you how to do that. This is right from Google documentation, and they give you the syntax for your robots.txt. It's a very small file. So you can see there's some things you can allow, some things you disallow. So whatever URL paths you disallow, then Google won't go there. So if you have a directory like no Googlebot, like they have here, then they're not going to search anything under that directory. You can have allow, but most people don't have that. I mean, because everything is allow unless it's specified that it's disallow. So in my case, I have some JavaScript files that I didn't want crawled because for whatever reason, right? So that directory where JavaScript is located, I said, don't crawl that. It's just something that I decided. Maybe you have some scripts or some outdated content, or maybe some category of your blog that you no longer want indexed. Maybe you think it's bad. Then for that reason, maybe you just say, no index that stuff. Another tool that we have to manage all of this is the canonical tag, as you see here. This is, again, something you would put exactly inside the header tag of a web page for two potential reasons. Remember that there are multiple URLs for the same page, www.website.com, no www. So to mitigate that, on every page, I would have the exact https://www.site.com. And if it's site.com/page/page or whatever else, you would put that one URL. So no matter what version of that URL Google crawls, because you only have one example of a page like that, all of those URLs will have that canonical tag, and Google will know, oh, this is really that version of https://www, the main version of that page, right? So you make sure that it knows this is the one. In addition, let's say you have two products or two blog posts that are really, really, really similar. If you have one like that, it's okay. But let's say you have a few and you're kind of worried that it causes duplication, then you can actually put the canonical tag. Let's say the latest page is the best one. So you would put the version of the canonical tag with the latest URL on both of those pages, so that the old bad page will be telling Google, hey, the new version, that's the better version of this. Index that one, okay? And then for the new page, the reason you'll have the canonical tag on that is so that it doesn't mistake the www, that site, versus just http://site.com. And that way you'll be covered from all angles. Now, there's another case, 301 redirects. This is in case of permanently moving a page. So the previous example with the canonical tag, you're not moving pages. Those pages are still staying on your site. You're just basically telling Google to only index one version. Okay, but those pages stay. With the 301 redirect, you're taking the old page and redirecting it to the new page. If a user types in the URL of the old page, the URL will kind of jump to the new URL. For the user, it's almost unnoticed, and it doesn't really affect their experience because it just takes a millisecond for the URL to happen. But for Google, this is actually takes all the SEO strength of the old page and gives that to the new page. So you actually now have kind of less pages, but stronger now, because the strength of the old page got added to the strength of the new SEO page, you see? So this can be done for outdated pages on your site, or often this is done if a website is entirely moved. So you need to move the pages from one URL to another URL. Or this is done to preserve SEO strength. So essentially, these are our tools to make sure we have no indexed duplicate content, meaning you can still have duplicate content, you just tell Google don't index that, so you're not going to be at risk of penalties. So you're not going to have risk of duplicate content, it's not going to index a lot of bad pages, and the only pages it will index are the good ones, which will reinforce to Google that, hey, we are a good page, our on-page SEO is done well. So the management of duplicate content and thin content, bad content, it's actually part of ranking 2 And it's actually easy to do because you don't have to get links from outside world. You can do this all essentially that very same day. Once you get a hang of it, it's pretty quick. And managing this well can also boost your ranking. So it's a part of any kind of SEO audit, or just basically if you're checking out your site to see whether your on-page SEO is done well, this part of the process is certainly one of your steps.